Welcome to Under the Hood, from Beyond the Bottom Line. This is where we step inside the company and talk through the real experiences behind the work. In this episode, Miguel and Ashton talk company culture, what it means inside Centurion, what happens when it's broken, and why it all starts with putting people first. Here's Miguel.
Hi, thank you for joining today's episode. Today, I'm joined by Centurion's very own Director of Client Experience, Ashton Shunana. We are going to have a conversation on culture at the firm and how culture impacts the bottom line. Ashton, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to talk about this culture that you built.
Well, thank you, first of all. Second of all, if I ignore that brown nosing, I do have to credit you. I think everyone on the team has a contribution in culture, and you know, I think the word culture itself is actually the right word because you know if you think about culture in a petri dish, it grows organically based on what's in the petri dish, right? I mean, you can kind of set it up so that it can be the best culture, but if you add the wrong parts to it, it's going to change the wrong way. So we'll talk a little bit about sometimes when we've seen the culture go off track. We'll talk about what's been really on track, but I'd like to just start with what's culture from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, when someone says, hey, how's the culture at your job? My first reaction is, well, I don't wake up and hate my work. I don't dread when my alarm clock goes off and I have to start work. You know, when I come to work, one, I know we have a purpose. I know we have things that we want to accomplish and everyone works hard. So I trust the teammates, but also I like the folks that we have here. You know, we have people that I enjoy talking to. So there's been times where our internal calls don't even start for 15 minutes because we're all just powwowing, talking, catching up and whatnot. We genuinely care about each other and what everyone's doing. So that's been really fun to just come to work with friends. I tell folks, you know, working here is like when you were in college and you had a college project that you got assigned with a bunch of different teammates and you guys meet at the library, you get some coffee, you talk, you laugh, you BS, but you do the work. That's what I think culture is just enjoying the folks that you're working with. And even though, you know, I might brown nose you a little bit because my performance review is coming up soon, I wanted to let you know culture does start at the top. I mean, you are the setter of it and we're just the people that, you know, carry it out as well.
Yeah, we actually already did your performance review, Ashton. So keep it coming. You've got another 3 months of brown nosing you need to do. I think that's a really good point. That is one of the greatest things to hear is that people don't dread coming to work. I think the standard should be, you know, people should be really excited to work. Tell me a little bit about like what it felt like being in a bad culture.
Oh yeah. I don't want to name names or anything like that, but just the corporate culture, I couldn't do it. Like when I would be finally getting off, like people would be mad at me when I left the office at 5 and they wouldn't even acknowledge that, hey, I can't, you know, work starts at 8, but I was in the office at 7:15. Like having that just confinement just sucked. And I'd be sitting in my apartment at 8 p.m. On a Friday night and our VP of sales would call me and say, hey, I need this report in my inbox by 8 a.m. tomorrow on a Saturday. I'm like, first off, hell no, I'm not doing that. Second of all, if I've been drinking. Third off, yeah, no, it's Friday. So, I mean, when you're in cultures where people don't care at all about work-life balance or don't respect your time to decompress and, you know, relax after you've been working your ass off all week, those are the cultures that just drive me crazy. Like, why would you waste your whole life just taking someone else's orders 24/7?
Yeah. And that's very much this idea that like my time is important and yours is not. And I think that's something that we drive home across the board. It's important. Your time's important. My time's important. The client's time is important. And we show up to meetings that give you credit. I get worried if I show up to a meeting on the dot and you're not there. Typically, I'm joining 2 minutes late and I'm apologizing for being 2 minutes late. So I think that's a really cool thing that like I'll give you credit for. All of our leadership meetings start, you know, I think that's trickled down. But that comes from, hey, everyone's time is important. Let's get this thing started on time. Let's end on time. And if we need to go 5 minutes over, something that I've learned from you is at 5 minutes left, you know, we want to be mindful of your time. And sometimes the client says, okay, I can go a little over, but I think that's a really important thing. In my experience, I mean, Big Four culture, you get that all the time. You know, hey, I need this. I want to look at this at 5 a.m. tomorrow on Saturday. this needs to be in Landbox. And I think the horrible thing that happens, and it does happen, is I would figure out how to get that done on a Friday. And what feels horrible is when it's Monday and you're like, hey, have you reviewed this yet?
And they did not even look at it.
They didn't even look at it. No, it's in there. I'll look at it. And then it's just like,
oh, actually, I wanted this. So I'm going to have you redo it tonight.
Yeah, it's absolutely, I think, horrible. I'm reminded, like, Jamie Dimon has a story where he told, as an associate, he told that managing director that didn't review his thing, he's like, I don't want to work with you anymore. So, like, even, you think about, like, the most corporate, I mean, like, they're talking about it. So I think it's really important that we respect staff's time. And I'll say another thing that we believe at our firm is that the way to honor someone's work is to really give real feedback. And that means that some of it's positive, some of it's critical. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that same company, my direct manager honestly treated me like I didn't even exist. Like, I would have sales calls that he just wouldn't show up to. And I was so new, and I'd have to run enterprise sales calls by myself. The times that he did show up, we wouldn't debrief after it at all. So I learned nothing about how I did, if I got better or not. And after like a year, I was like, hey guys, I've gotten 2% better at sales being here for a year. When I'm in the hungriest part of my life, when I'm in the most, like, I want to learn stage of my life, I want to work hard stage of my life. And I have no idea. I know I'm not getting better at sales, and I don't even know if I'm doing a good job here. So it eventually got to the point where I just gave up. I was like, screw this. If they don't care, I don't care. I work from home. So I was like, cool. Well, I'm just going to watch TV and take naps and go to the beach and do whatever I want because they don't care. And I did that for like a year, basically. And they were just paying me to chill, essentially, and be, at beck and call of the VP of sales. So that was basically my job. And that sucked. That really sucked. Like, I just felt underappreciated. I felt like they didn't want me there. And I felt like I was wasting my time. So I left that company for a job that paid me less than that because it had a better manager.
Thank you for taking a pay cut.
That was the company.
That was another pay cut. People do take pay cuts for better culture. I mean, that's a reality and a truth. And I think it's worth it. I think it's absolutely worth it if you have a better life and you get, the kind of feedback that actually helps you grow. But I will say, I think in tax specifically, we have a habit as reviewers of just taking the product, not saying thank you, but just taking whatever it is that the staff is working on, getting it to completion, and then taking it to the client. And then we move on to the next one, do the same thing. And when you don't take a moment to say, hey, here are the things you need to improve, then you miss that learning opportunity. And I think it's really important to realize, especially in technical fields, you have to give the opportunity for them to fix things. And I know that's really difficult because we just want to take things over the line. But anytime we don't give staff the opportunity to fix things, my view is you're basically stealing a learning moment. So what we try and do is we set up our workflows too, that until the product has crossed, we call it the 85% threshold, the senior associate, in my case, who I'm reviewing, needs to finish that work. So now I'm forced to give them feedback that actually makes them do the things that I typically would have done. Really difficult to do. But again, I mean, this comes back to the way to honor someone's work is to really spend time with it. And you can't do that if you're just taking the product and moving it on. So like in our world, it's, hey, let's talk after the sales call. What went well? And something I like that we do in our firm is when we do our annual with leadership is we go around the table and we say, hey, we want to ask you to stop doing something. So everybody goes around, and if it's Ashton, all of us are saying, we need you to stop doing X.
Think about things that you're going to say before you say it. That's every year people tell me that. And I still haven't really done that.
And I think that a good one that like I heard this year was something that you got maybe 2 years ago, which was, I need you to stop solving the problem right away. And I need you to start asking questions about what their thought process is to get there. And I think that's a really cool way to shine the spotlight on the person that's bringing the problem or the person that's worked on the first part of the project and think like, okay, really, what were you thinking here? It's been really cool because I think it works a muscle that you need to go from being an individual contributor to a manager. That step is really difficult And it's really difficult to get someone to really own that growth. So really cool to see that you've done that. And I think it's come from, sitting with those sales calls, me being on there, me telling you, hey, I really think that there was an opportunity in that conversation where the client shared a pain point. We could have said, tell me more about that. We could have opened the wound, as they call it. And we didn't do that. I think the feedback piece, honoring someone's work is a really important part of culture. Let's talk about some of the people that we've hired and we're like, this is not a culture fit. Can you think of the kind of anti-culture things that have happened or experiences? You can't call out names, but I know you've got a few top of mind.
You probably have the same exact one, that tax advisor that we hired that would just yell at clients, just not a good person who just, that was when we hired, we're like, we need someone really, really technical. Like we've never really hired someone purely for their technical skills and knowledge. And boy, did we learn the wrong way that if they're not an actual decent human being, if they don't know how to talk to people in general, it's probably not a good fit. And then once we got to know him, like his entire family didn't talk to him. Like he's definitely the type of person who shoves people away. And we learned that the hard way. So now I know during our interview process, our hiring process, who they are at their core, who, the relationships that they have is really important as well. Because you can learn it the wrong way, the hard way, and it can make you lose money. It can cause a lot of frustration.
That was a really important inflection point in the business, because I think up until then, we put all this emphasis on having the right answer. You need the right strategy. You need the right thing. And what I think we've learned since then is it's not about having the right answer, the right strategy. It is important, and we are all aiming to get there. But what clients really value and what we value as human beings is getting there the right way. And that was the birth of value number one, which is people first. So, having the right answer and screaming at a client that they're wrong and whatever they've read on the internet is stupid. And like this advisor would say like, hey, I'm a CPA. What are you? And, the client's like, the number of times clients are like, hey, can I work with someone else? Like they know their stuff, but can I work with someone else? Like this isn't working at all.
So where'd you get your accounting degree? Because I got mine at Dharma.
It's hilarious looking at it now. But the amount of pains we went through and that we put clients through was horrible. I think we decided we're not doing it. And that is why value number one, when you come to work with us or get to know anything about us, is people first. So people are understood before they understand our perspective. So, hey, really interesting. Tell me more about what you read. Okay. And you feel like, tell me why that strategy that you read about applies to you. And then they start kind of opening up. Okay, I think maybe I'm missing something. Okay, yeah, it typically works for this situation. In your situation, here's the other thing. That skill was completely missing from this person that we're talking about. And actually, it's a skill that's more important than having the right answer. I think oftentimes with the right relationship, you can get by with having a wrong answer and then finding it later. But you don't have that if you don't contribute to the emotional capital bank.
Like even at the end of the day, if you come back to, oh yeah, you actually are wrong, take the long route, talk about it together, get through it, evaluate why it's the wrong way, let the person find out themselves.
Honoring people's work, honoring their time, getting to the right answer the right way. That's how we think about culture here at Centurion.